Real people, real opinions.
Real Talk Radio. The multi-award winning Niall Boylan Show.
Ireland's classic hits.
Kids are going back to school in a couple of weeks. Some of you will be sad about that. Most of you, like myself, will be jumping up and down with glee to get them back to school. But going back to school, this time of year, the back to school time of year, it can be tough on a lot of parents. It really can. And if you are one of those parents who does struggle at this time of year, because I'm just thinking off the top of my head, the expenses for this time of year for back to school, you have new uniforms because kids grow out of the uniforms. And it appears to me that kids need new uniforms every single year. I know when I was in primary school, I was told to wear those jumpers until the arms were literally out of them. And when the arms did come out of your jumpers, there was patches put on them. But that doesn't happen anymore. Has to be a new jumper, new shirt, new trousers every year. New books. Maybe they need an iPad for school. Stationery, new shoes, a new school bag. Which, by the way, is another thing. It's an argument I'm having with my wife at the moment because we were out shopping in Dundrum Town Centre there in Dublin last weekend. And she was like, we have to get Luke a school bag for going back to school. And I was like, well, we don't actually, because the school bag he used last year is perfectly good. There's no, he wants a new one. He saw that one in the shop and he wants a new one. He wants the one with Spider-Man on the back. I was like, no, he doesn't. I had the same school bag for 6 years. All these things that have to be replaced every year, they don't. Anyway, she won, by the way, and he got the new school bag. Let there be a lesson to you lads. Just keep your mouth shut, don't argue. But there are a lot of expenses. Parents estimate that it costs around, wait till you hear this now, €1,381 to keep their child in primary school per year. So that's how much a parent is going to fork out in a year. I presume that includes like day trips and lunches and stuff like that, all that sort of stuff. But €1,381. That is a huge amount of money. So with that in mind, I want to talk to you about back to school costs. Are you struggling? And ask you whether or not the back to school allowance is enough. Does the government give enough to struggling parents who are going back to school? Now, the reason I'm talking about this is because Tom in Kildare was listening to the show last night and heard me mention something about this and decided to get in touch. Now, I'll warn you, Tom is very, very blunt about what he's about to say. Very, very blunt, okay? He doesn't have kids, and that will become obvious when you hear this. And I want you to pay close attention to it, have a listen to what he's saying, and tell me if you agree with what he's saying. Hi, Jeremy. I was listening to your show last night, and I hope you read this out. I'm annoyed, and I don't think I'm the only one. All last week and yesterday, all I'm seeing is Back to School Brigade banging on about how expensive it is to have kids at this time of year. Everywhere you see parents consoling each other and going on about the price of things. I have many issues with this, says Tom. Number one, by the way, there's a list here of things he has. Here's the issues. Sit down for this one. This is going to go on a while. Number one, this happens every year. Why does it seem to be a surprise that come the end of August, things will need to be bought? I just don't get it. Every year I have to pay a fortune for my car insurance and I save accordingly. Why don't these parents with children, why do they get such a shock every time? Number two, there's only 3 things on the list, okay? Number two, you are spoiling your children. Somebody needs to say this. Kids are spoiled rotten these days. And half the problems parents have, they bring it upon themselves. Number 3, buy second hand. You are broke because you won't allow your kids to wear second hand clothes and go without. Get over yourselves. You get back to school allowance and you're now telling us that it needs to be more because you were stupid at budgeting. Rant over. Bring it up. From Tom in Kildare. Tom is angry. He wants it brought up and I want to hear from you. What do you think of Tom's rant there? Is he making any sense? Now, I will say this. He is right in some of the things he says. Parents, like myself and like many of you listening, you know that come August, it's back to school time. So, like with Christmas, a lot of people put money into the kitty so that by Christmas time they have money. Why can parents not put money aside for the back to school allowance? And at the start of the summer, start putting a bit of money away? Or is that a very naive thing to say? Now, the back to school allowance for kids aged 4 to 11, I think it's 4 to 11, is 260 quid per kid. So, the government does help out, 260 per kid. That would cover shoes, books and uniform. So why are parents still struggling with back to school costs? If you are one of those parents who is struggling, I want to hear from you, 087 188 0008. Or maybe you agree with Tom that parents like this, they just need to budget properly. They need to sit down and work out how much they're going to need for back to school so that they're not trying to scrimp and save come August to get the kids all they need. 087 188 0008. That'll get you straight through to me. Send a voice note or just a WhatsApp message and we will call you back. Now, let me go to Jason. First of all, Jason, you're on Ireland's Classic Hits Radio. How are you?
Good evening, Jeremy.
Good. How are things?
We're all right. Who let you with control today?
Sorry, say again?
Who let you with the remote control tonight?
A very foolish man, Jason. A very foolish man.
we'll have to have words. How are you keeping, brother?
I'm grand. Now, you heard Tom's rant.
Tom sounds like a sad little bit, man. Now, for Tom, if people don't have kids, who is going to look after you when you're old and frail? Who's going to pay the pensions when you become pension age? And don't give me that you're putting your own money away. Okay, but the state pension comes from people who are working in the year that you retire. It's not from what you've done over the years. Your PPS doesn't go into a magic pot till you retire. So Tom just sounds like a bit of a twisted little man. If we don't have kids, the human race doesn't go on.
Okay, he obviously doesn't have kids. He admits that himself, so he doesn't know the cost of kids. But some of the stuff he says is right, that you need to budget. You know that this time of year is coming around.
Yeah, it's like Christmas, it's like birthday parties,
it's no surprise.
Not everybody has the luxury, though, of budgeting as much as we'd like to. A lot of parents do put money aside, but come on. We all know having a bunch of kids, how stuff happens. They break stuff in the house. Stuff in the house is expensive to get replaced.
But that's why we have a back to school allowance, but
you know why voluntary, now this is voluntary contributions, just for two of my primary school kids was 190 quid.
Yeah, same as mine.
And that's the voluntary. So the 200 and odd, and the government don't give it to you, Jeremy. Don't be saying the government are giving it to us. Don't be trying to pep them up. That's our money. That's our taxes. That's people like me.
Yeah, no, the point I'm making...
but so it's not their money they're giving us. It's the money we give them we're getting back. I mean, look what they like to squander. So if we can get a few of our quids back, I'll take it.
But the point is, 260 quid per child for the back to school allowance should go a fair way towards...
Don't get me wrong, it does. It does help out. I have 5 going to school this year. So don't get me wrong, it does help out.
But are the government to blame because people can't budget properly?
No, it's not. It's not that the government are to blame that people can't budget properly. It's the price of everything has gone up. I mean, everything is more expensive this year than it was last year. It's more expensive last year than it was the year before. But our money hasn't gone up to match it. You know that, Jeremy. I mean, you're on all the time screaming about how many jobs you have to do just to keep your bloody head above water.
Yeah.
I'm sleeping not too far from you tonight. I'm less than a half a kilometre from you tonight here now in the truck with 250 other truck drivers all sleeping out to try and pay for our way in life. So if I can get a few quid back off them, I'll take it. I mean, they've no problem squandering it and giving... We know the blank checks they like to write whatever they like to write them to. So no, I mean it's
okay, yeah, but having said that, everybody knows, Jason, that having kids is expensive. It's an expensive old hobby. Having kids, they don't come cheap. They bleed you. They bleed you dry.
Yeah.
I mean, me and my wife, we just seem to spend every day just giving out money for this and that and the other.
Yeah.
So
come here while you're talking. Dude, listen to a wise whole man. Don't make this mistake. Don't get them a Revolut Junior.
Well, my son does have a Revolut Junior.
No, don't. Oh, my God, man.
I know.
I'm taking a change of my number from my kids. But we all know it is expensive. But it has got more expensive over the last couple of years. Everything has gone up except for our wages. Right? The banks are taking more off people with mortgages. I'm sure you're pinned to your collar with the mortgage and the interest rates. Right? Look at the price of food now, the price of fuel, the price of running a car. I mean, and all the charges they're trying to bring in. We seem to be paying more nowadays in taxes and for private companies to do stuff that we used to get back in the 80s and 90s for nothing. Like we pay for our bins now, that used to be collected on your taxes. Like our taxes.
Jason, I get all that life is more expensive.
So that's why are the government not there to help people out in time of need?
Well, and this is coming as someone who has 3 kids. The government aren't there to pay for our kids constantly.
No, not pay for, no, they're not there to pay for our kids. They're there to help the people of this country out in a time of need.
But they are helped. They are helped.
Yeah,
I'm not a spokesperson for the government by any stretch of the imagination. But they are helping out with the back to school allowance.
Yes, and it's good. It is good. But the price of everything has gone up except for our wages. So we could do with a bit more help. I mean, it is our money at the end of the day. We vote for how our money should be spent. We vote for these people in. We should tell them how to spend their money.
Okay, so do you want the back to school allowance to be increased?
Well, what's the surplus now that the government have this year for the budget? 64 billion or something they've extra? They found billion somewhere in some companies. So yeah, I'd like a bit of that back for us. For the back to school. But Jason, without being rude, you have many kids going back to school at the moment? I have 5 this year going back. That was your choice to have 5. I paid for them. I'm not here, by the way, I'm paying taxes over 30 years. I know you are, yeah. 4 of my kids are out now. My 4 eldest kids are working and paying taxes. I have another 25 years, hopefully, please God, paying taxes. And then the others will be paying taxes. So, yeah, I'd like a bit of my money back. Okay, do me a favour. Stay there for a second, please, Jason. 087 188 0008. He doesn't think the back to school allowance is enough. I can hear Tom listening at home who sent this message jumping up and down in anger at hearing that. I'd love to hear from you. 087 188 0008. You can send us a voice note like Joanna did.
I understand where you're coming from, Jeremy. You know, it's like Christmas, birthdays, you know, these things are going to come around year after year. But at the same time, the way things are, people probably can't afford to put anything away. The cost of living and all that, okay? So that's one aspect of it. And I do think, it's outrageous. I mean, my primary school kids, not so bad. It's the secondary school stuff is the problem. My son is going into TY year this year, and before I even buy a pair of socks for him, let alone a jumper, because the jumper changes colour. So the jumper I bought him last year, which is perfectly fine. Yeah, I hear you. It's no good to him. I have to buy him a navy one now. It was wine last year. I have to pay €250 just to allow him to enter TY year. What's that all about? Again, I mean, it's absolutely outrageous. Free education. That's a joke, Joanna. Again, Joanna, I hear what you're saying, but children are expensive. This is nothing new. And if you think about it, I know you're comparing apples with oranges, but back in the 60s, how did families survive when they had 8 or 9 and 10 kids, when there was these huge families? How did they manage to get by like we do? You know, I mentioned at the start that kids seem to need a new school uniform every year. They don't. I had the same jumper for like 3 years, as I said, and I didn't grow up in poverty or anything like that. But we just didn't replace school uniforms. If the elbows came out of the jumpers, which they regularly did, there were patches put on my jumper. That's what happened. But now, it has to be new uniforms. They won't dare buy a uniform out of Aldi or Lidl if they're selling uniforms. No. The kid has to be in the proper gear, has to have the new school bag. Darren, what have you got to say on this? There's Darren. How are you, Darren?
Well, Jeremy.
How are you?
2 words, family planning.
Oh.
If you can't afford kids, that's on you, not the government. Irish people seem to just want the government to pay for their whole life, basically. Pay for a house, pay for kids. It just really annoys me. If you want more, go out and work. Simple as. Get a second job.
Yeah, let's put that to you, Jason.
Sorry, pal. I take nothing. I've worked my whole entire life and I've reared my 8 kids and put them all through school. I'm far going through it now. I'm entitled to this. This is my taxes. I've paid enough taxes in this country, bro. But don't say about all this planning and this. I did plan. I can afford my kids. I work damn hard. But then the point Aaron's making then. The point is what? The point he's making is if you can afford your kids, well and good. But you clearly can't because you're struggling with the. I don't know how you. I'm struggling. Who said I'm struggling? I'm doing all right. I'm just getting back what I put in. No, but you said that you'll need a dig out, and I don't blame you. 5 kids. Yeah. Look at the price of things. Look at the way that the price of things have gone up. Okay, do me a favour. Stay there for a second, please, Jason. Tina, sorry for holding you for so long. How are you?
I'm good. I'm afraid of Jason. No, I'm only joking. I'm not.
Jason's lovely. He's lovely.
I'm only joking. Well, the way I see it is, I agree with Jason 100%. And as well, those children that the government are partially funding are going to go out into society and be paying their taxes when they leave in cert as well. or they'll go to college and they'll get careers, and they'll be pumping money back into society.
I
Why
get...
not carry them a bit of the way now while they're young, like?
Okay,
You know?
yeah, Tina, last year I decided, well, it wasn't just me, I was pushed more or less. We decided, well, my wife came up with the idea, and we decided that I would go and get the snip, get a vasectomy, because we realised that after 3 kids, I mean, I'd love 10 kids, but after 3 kids, we just couldn't afford it. So I went and got the snip because I figured...
Because you still enjoy the manufacturing part.
Oh, it will, yeah. Oh, yeah, that hasn't stopped. But I knew that to have another one or another 2, we'd be struggling. So that's the point that Darren was making, I think, that, you know, that you have to realise that kids are expensive and budget that way.
Yeah. Well, I suppose every parent has to think that way, no matter how old their children are. And these adults that don't have children, that don't see it from a more broad-minded perspective, they seem to forget that they were children once upon a time themselves, and they may or may not have come from large families too.
Yeah, but we didn't have. Yeah, but Tina, we didn't have when we were kids. We didn't have iPads.
Myself, sure, I didn't get a new uniform every year or a new school bag either. Far from it. Far from it.
You know, there were kids in my class.
Right.
You went to school in a pair of shoes that still had holes in them. Now kids need new shoes every week or whatever. Like, parents...
My brother calls me warped toes because I used to go to school with shoes that were too small for me.
There you go.
And I had to grin and bear it. I was like a fucking geisha.
Well, what would you say to Darren? He's actually on the other line now. Darren says that if you can't afford kids, don't have them. Is that too simplistic?
Well, you see, it's not... we didn't go to the government and say, right, you're going to hand us out, you're going to give us a hand towards funding our children through school. This was, we didn't come up with this. The government came up with this.
Well, let me we'll stay there for a second, Tina. Darren, you've upset a lot of people with your message.
The truth hurts, Darren. The truth hurts.
Now, do you have kids yourself?
No.
Oh, you see, that's going to annoy people even more. Because...
Why does it?
Because you're there dictating to people how many kids they should have and shouldn't.
No, I never said have as. I just said if you can't have kids, though, if you can't afford kids, don't have them. I don't have a Range Rover because I can't afford one.
That's a good point.
You know what I mean?
Couldn't afford to have, yeah. I'm only joking.
No, but the point he's making is what's the expression? Cut your cloth to meet your measure.
The reason why people have loads of kids in like lower class areas or whatever is because they know the government is there to support them.
People don't have kids for that reason.
Yeah, but they know the government is there to support them if they come on harsh times.
Trust me, when they're having unprotected sex and if they have children accidentally, that is the last thing on their mind. Oh, sure, guess what? When this child is 5 now and it starts school, sure, I'm going to get loads of money off the government.
Well,
People don't even think that far down the road, to be honest.
We all know what happens when a male and a female come together, have sex, and the male, you know what? We all know what happens. So when people come after having a baby and saying, oh, it was a bit of a mistake, wear condoms then. Everything is down to choices and not making a choice, either or. Everything. Life is down to decisions.
True.
And that's all he's saying, Tina. All he's saying is...
It helps towards the only part of education that's free is the educating part. Everything else you have to fork out for.
But I would argue, and Darren would argue, that you should have to pay for your own children. I don't know, maybe I'm just backward in my thinking. You would agree with that as well, don't you, Darren? You should. Course. It's your job as a parent to provide for your children, not ask the government, gimme. You brought the child into the world. As a parent, it is your job to provide. And if you fall on hard times, which a lot of people do, the government has stuff there. They have things in place that will help you along the way. I mean, Ireland, I've said this very often, Ireland is very generous when it comes to welfare.
It is the most generous in the world.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that you go over to America and ask for a back-to-school allowance for your kids and you get a slap across the head.
You pay for your own healthcare and everything over there, sure.
Absolutely everything. So do you think 260 quid as the back-to-school allowance is enough? Is it fair enough?
Well, of course it is. And even still, just because people are getting that for the, inverted commas, children's allowance, it doesn't mean they're actually spending it on the kids or for the schools. How do we know they are? We don't.
You're listening to Nighttime Talk with Niall Boylan.
With Recruit.ie. Download our job search app today. Search for Recruit.ie in your smartphone app store.
Ireland's Classic Hits Radio.
It is Ireland's Classic Hits Radio. Thank you for joining us on this Tuesday night where we're talking about the back to school allowance and the struggles. And a lot of people may think I'm being flippant about this, but I'm not. I just feel very strongly about parents actually paying for the upkeep of their own children. That's the way I was brought up, and it's always the way I've been. I don't expect anything from anybody to help my children out. I do it myself, and if I do fall on hard times, of course, yes, I expect the government to help me along the way, but I don't expect everything. I don't like this gimme, gimme, gimme sense of entitlement attitude. Here's Siobhan.
When I had my children, when I was planning my family, I was well able to afford my children. Since I ended my marriage, been a bit different, all right. I think it's a bit too simplistic to say if you can't afford children, then don't have them, because things change, and the cost of living has just gone absolutely through the roof. I'm paying a mortgage now, €2,600. It's about to go up again, and it used to be a very comfortable €1,100. Now I'm struggling with my children. Children are expensive, but I tell you what, teenagers, they're absolutely something else.
Yeah, I'm dreading that time. My God, €2,600 for your mortgage, that is absolutely crazy. That's nuts, that is. And yeah, you're right, circumstances do change. You could have a great job, have 5 kids, plenty of money to look after them, then you lose the job. These things happen. Let me go to Denise. How are you, Denise?
Hi, how are you, Jeremy?
Good. Now, you have 5 in school. Are they all in primary school or...?
No, they're across primary, secondary, and one about to start 3rd level.
So this month must be crazy for you, getting everything together.
So, I forget Christmas. This time of year for me is always the mountain we have to climb. But like people say, we know it's coming. But you always think, I'll just put that bit away next month or next week. But the things I think people are maybe giving out a bit about school are actually the things I really like. For example, uniforms. I love uniforms because it saves me a fortune. We don't mind sharing. We don't mind second hand. We're kind of used to it.
Yeah, in fact, my son's school, I don't know if your kid's school do that as well. They do this thing where if you're finished with a uniform, you give it to the school and they'll give it on to another parent that needs it.
Or that's exactly what we do. Or what we do as well is the second-hand rail, where you can buy any item for €5 and that goes into the PTA's kitty or the school's kitty. And people don't mind doing that at all. And
but how much of a struggle is it for you to get them all kitted out and to get the books and the whole lot?
So for me, the primary school is not really too much of a challenge, although I'm not so excited they made the books free now when I've only one left in primary. But secondary school can be a challenge. Now, we have books, and I know a lot of friends of mine really don't like the €800 or €900 for the iPad. That's a real challenge.
That's a lot of money, yeah.
I don't know why that is considered. Now, this is just my personal opinion. Because all the kids still have to have hardback copybooks for every one of those subjects. So they're still carrying around books. The bags are not empty. We can't share those books or those iPads or pass them on to the next sibling. If you forget the iPad, all the books are forgotten.
Yep.
If you drop the iPad, all the books are gone. And you still have to pay a license every year. That's what I'm told now. My kids are in school with books, which I quite like. But again, that's my next bugbear, is the constant reprinting of books. I would have no problem with books. We could have them for years if they would stop releasing new editions.
Oh, I know, it's the new editions, yeah.
It's the new editions. And when you, let's say to the school, do we really need this? And well, we're told to have these. We're told to get these.
Now, you were listening to Darren there just before the break, who says, kids are expensive. If you have them, pay for them. Don't expect handouts for them. Is that too simplistic? That's basically what you're saying, Darren, isn't it? You want a Land Rover or a Range Rover, you can't afford it, so you don't have one.
Exactly.
I personally don't get into that conversation too often because I find it is quite a passionate conversation. Personally,
we're a very passionate show, by the way. Very passionate on this show.
Am I too measured?
Yeah, you're being very measured. Yes, you are. No, but the point is,
he's through this conversation. So
no, but the point he's making is a valid argument. It really is. Like we know what, and again, this has come from someone who, down to the thing that I noticed the most, and it seems frivolous now, but the fact that now that we're a family of 5 now, so we can't go on the holidays that we used to be able to go on when it was just the 2 of us, and they're the things you accept, aren't they? That when you have more kids, that you're going to have to sacrifice certain things.
Is that to Darren or to me?
Sorry, say again.
Is that to Darren or to me? Are you saying
no,
that
to you, that we are as parents of big families, that you do end up having to miss out on things, but they're the choices that you make.
And particularly this year, I think. This year and last year, I was looking around at holidays this year and we were looking at each other going, how on earth are we going to get on holidays?
Yeah.
And I think for example, the food shopping has gotten expensive. So again, the lunch boxes are one of my least favourite parts of school. The diesel, insurance, car tax.
Oh,
we drive a big car. I would love if they didn't kind of penalise the big family cars.
Oh, I know.
If we sell our car to a taxi driver, he pays half the road tax we pay.
I know, it's crazy. It's crazy.
So it's another thing I would give out about.
But you know what? As I said, Denise, that's why I got the snip. That's why I got it. It's the best 250 quid I've ever spent, I have to say. I couldn't recommend it more to you, lads. And I have a feeling after this conversation tonight, I have a feeling that there's going to be a lot more men going out and getting it. Honestly, it's something you should consider. If you're at the stage now where you think, I can't afford to have any more, then snip. Like, it's a lot cheaper, okay? 250 quid versus, how much is it costing for a year? 1,381. If Darren's still there, did you get the snip yet, Darren, or is that something on your mind?
I'm taking it. That's not really on my mind, no.
No. Well, 250 quid, I can get you a good. I can get you a good deal, okay? I want to hear from you. 087 188 0008. 087 188 0008 if you want to get in on this. We're talking about the cost of back to school, whether or not the back to school allowance should be increased, which I can't believe the amount of people who believe that 260 quid is not enough. Like, if you have 4 kids, that's $1,000. That's literally $1,000 that you're getting into your bank account. If you qualify for it, by the way. We got one message there a couple of moments ago. Let me just see if I can find it. Hi, Jeremy, says Mags. Not everyone gets the back to school allowance. I certainly don't. My child is 9 and I've never gotten this allowance. In the last few years, it's become a sore point in our house. Well, it is. It doesn't go to everyone. Like, it is. What's the expression I'm looking for? It's means tested. It's means tested. So not everybody gets it. Let me go to Stephen, because Stephen, you believe we should get more help.
I certainly don't think we should be taking any help that we have away. I was doing a bit of research when your researcher called me, and I think according to financialwellbeing.ie, there is to be a one-off increase of €100 per child in July of this year.
Oh, okay. So that's...
unless that means it's gone up to 260 from 160, but I don't know. But yeah, I'm going to put it to you this way. I'm 34. When I was in school, in primary school, my mum was working 5 days a week. My dad was working 5 days a week, and more than likely 2 to 3 or 4 nights a week as well on top of that, just to keep myself and my sister in school books, copybooks, shoes, and a uniform. And that was 6 years. And then, another 6 years of my mum working on her own, with a little bit of support from dad after they split. And because she's working on a job seekers contract for the last God knows how many years, she would have been entitled to a lot of these things. And a lot of people that are on a DSP contract are entitled to them, but not everyone is going to get them, and everybody has to apply for them. So I certainly don't think, I think what is it, the cutoff limit is 642 per week if you've only got one child that you're applying for. Like, how many people are earning 650 quid a week?
I don't actually know. Yeah.
But I don't think it's, and this whole thing of cutting your cloth to meet your measure, fine. I'm never going to be able to afford kids. And I would love to have kids, but I'm never going to be able to afford kids unless I marry some very rich man.
Okay, but that's very sad to say that, because you don't know. And if you really, really want kids that badly, and you sound like you do, there's nothing stopping you. I mean, the difference...
Well, that's true. I could go out and get a second or a third and a fourth job, or, go and work in a better country with higher wages for my qualifications and, lower cost of living. So never say never, but, I'd like to have kids before I get to 50 and a house. Yeah, you
see, it's a lot of expense, and I don't think a lot of people realise how expensive it is going to have a big family. But again, it's not something that should be denied to somebody. It shouldn't be, if you really, really want them, it shouldn't be denied to you.
Absolutely, and a lot of people will be making big considerations as to whether or not, like yourself, you want a first kid or a second kid or a third kid. Before they even countenance the idea of having unprotected sex, or adopting somebody, or, anything like that, and so they should be, because it is a lifetime commitment. It's not just an 18-year commitment.
Yeah. And sorry, let me ask you this, just as a by the by, are you in a relationship?
No, I'm single.
Okay, but it's something that is definitely on your radar, that you do want to have a child at some stage of your life, yeah?
Yeah, at some point, because, as I said, there are so many people so many kids that are in childcare systems and foster systems and the state systems that would be crying out for any kind of a loving parent.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or parents, and, if I had the opportunity and I had the means to do it, I would happily give a good life to a child.
I'm sure you would.
And,
and the child would be very lucky as well to have you. Thank you very, very much for your call, Stephen. Let me go to Eddie. How are you, Eddie?
You and Jeremy, you well?
Good. Now, your point's going to annoy people. I see on my screen here. Don't have kids if you can't afford them.
Jeremy, I've been banging on about this for years to you. Right? The most irresponsible thing you can do in life is bring a child into this world if you're not financially in a position to look after it. It's not the government's job to financially raise your child. I work 60 hours a week and I can't afford a child. Yet I know people, right, who earn less than me, who've never worked, and are lashing kids out to beat the band with no responsibility whatsoever.
No, how are they doing
it? For them.
How are they doing it?
Of how they're going to provide for them. And then all of my taxes go to them to get their back-to-school allowance, their double heating at Christmas, their Christmas bonus, their children's allowance, all of that. I get nothing back, but it all goes to them, and it absolutely grinds my gears. It's a joke. You have to live within your means. You have to live within your means. And I'm not having to go at people that are working hard because they deserve a break because they pay enough taxes. I'm talking about the people that know they're not in a financial position to ever even have one child, yet they're still having 3 or 4. And they're expecting the government to be a sugar daddy. It's an absolute joke.
So what, are you, like, say for instance, are you begrudging me the children's allowance that we get for our 3 children?
Put it this way, right? If I was in government, you wouldn't be getting a children's allowance. You wouldn't be getting a double allowance at Christmas. You wouldn't be getting a heating allowance. You'd be getting nothing. Get off your arse and work for it. That's what I was always told. Get off your hole. If you want something nice in life, you work for it. Like Darren says, I'd love a new car. I can't afford it. So I have to cut my cloth to suit me measure. But there's so many people out there, the entitled brigade, want everything for nothing. Now, I will kind of relax a bit where you work your arse off and you get a bit back. So fair play to you. You know, you deserve a break. I'm talking about, and there's probably about 500,000 of these people. We all know them.
But hang on, let's just rewind back there, Eddie. Let me rewind back a bit there. You would scrap children's allowance for everybody.
We pay people for having kids. Like, it's crazy.
Well, no,
it's crazy. We pay a woman for opening her legs and having a child.
Stop.
Can't afford. It's a joke. Absolute joke.
Children's allowance is to help parents along the way.
We're one of the only countries in the world that actually give people children's allowance.
And is that not a good thing? That's a badge of honour, isn't it?
I don't know about that, because I know people that abuse it to the core. I know people that are actually never worked and they're having kids to beat the band, and they're coming out with more money than me with all the benefits. And it's not beneficial for them to work because they wouldn't get as much as they get in entitlements.
But
this country is too
Eddie,
easy
I get
for
that,
people
Eddie. But
to have an easy life.
Yeah, but children's allowance for some families is the difference between a child going to school hungry or a child going to school with lunch in their bag.
And did they not know that before they decided to have a child?
Well, maybe they didn't realise.
Oh, come on. If you're an adult and you're having sex, you have to be able to realise that, hold on, kids cost money. There was an article on the paper the other day, a child costs from being born to 18 an average of €180,000. Right? You have to know kids cost money. You can't just go, I didn't know. Oh, that doesn't wash with me.
I know, but Eddie, literally scrapping children. And to be honest with you, fair play to you, because you're the first person I've ever heard in all my years doing this type of a radio show. You're the first person that's ever had the balls to suggest that we should scrap children's allowance. But I think
the amount of benefits that people get in this country. Well, like I said, I work 60 hours a week. I get nothing. I know people that are getting medical cards, children's allowance, other allowances, back to school allowance, double weeks at Christmas. They're getting everything because they know how to work the system.
Not everybody does, though, Eddie. But do me a favour, stay there for a second. Sarah, you disagree with what Eddie's saying, do you?
No, I agree with him, actually.
Oh, you agree with him?
Yeah, I agree with him. Like, he's right, he's bang on there.
Scrap the children's allowance.
Yeah, well, for the people out there that are just going around and doing nothing, like, they're just pushing out babies and claiming this, that and the other. A free ride in life. Yes, in this life you're entitled to nothing.
Okay, but
like
how do you determine who is just having babies for money and who isn't?
Well, you can obviously say, like, with the amount of people out there having children and they're claiming X, Y, and Z, and you have the likes of other people that are out there working very hard, and they can't afford to have a child.
So you want to see children's allowance scrapped as well?
Not 100%. I actually do think that it should be means tested. You have people in jobs over 120 and 130 grand getting children allowance. You probably have 4 or 5 children that's still entitled.
Okay, you see, I have a problem with that. Would it being means tested?
Well, how would you have a problem with that, Jeremy?
Okay, well, I'll tell you why I have a problem with that. Because the people who earn the more wages pay more tax into the system.
I know that. that. I pay an awful lot of tax and I have no children.
Yeah, and I pay an awful lot of tax, so I deserve the children's allowance. Why do my children? Why would someone else's children, whose parents may not earn enough money, deserve more children's allowance than I do? Every child should be equal. That's, by the way, that's why children's allowance is universal in this country, because every child has to be treated equal. But do you think that someone who's on?
Jeremy, let's call a spade here, right? You have people out there that screwing the system left, right, and centre, and they're having babies and they're claiming this, that, and the other. What that chap said. You have women out there that are struggling. They have a family, and unfortunately they may have lost their job, and they get nothing. They hardly get anything, and they're barely scraping by to put food in their fridge for their children. The government don't care about that.
Well, they obviously do. They obviously do care about it. There wouldn't be a social welfare system in place.
Yeah, but do you think it's fair what you give them? They should actually match what they've lost, but you don't do that.
But you want to penalise people who have succeeded in their careers and who were earning good money. You want to penalise them by taking their children's allowance away. How is that fair?
100%. Like, sure, you're talking about, where I'm coming from is this, right? If people are earning over a certain amount of money and that they're able, like they're going 3 and 4 holidays a year, you don't need a children's allowance.
Yeah, but they can afford 3 holidays a year because they work hard for it, Sarah.
Yeah, but they work hard for it. But why do they want the children's allowance? Tell me why.
Why?
What's that going to contribute, to their lifestyle? An extra holiday?
No, well, I'm sure they would put it towards. They would put it towards the kids. No, I don't know if they spend it on an extra holiday. How do I know what they spend it on? But it's none of our concern what they spend it on.
But Jeremy, it is because it's coming out of our pockets.
But there's lots of things that
we're getting taxed on our pensions. We're getting a pension levy is getting took out, and we're getting taxed on that again. Like, all we seem to be doing is paying tax upon taxes upon taxes, and we're getting nothing in return. I
just can't stay there for a second, please, Sarah. I can't believe what I'm hearing tonight. It's funny. I was not surprised when I heard it from a male caller, Eddie, that he wanted to scrap it. But to hear it from a female caller, I don't know why that shocks me all the more. So what Sarah is basically saying is that children's allowance should, and I'll let you think about it for a second, Sarah, about what do you think the cap should be. Sarah wants to have children's allowance means tested, meaning that someone who's earning a certain amount of money, so say for instance Michael O'Leary, Ryanair man, is one of the country's richest men. He's also a father. I can't remember how many children he has now. Is it 2 kids he has? But Michael O'Leary gets the children's allowance just like you and I get it. Now, does Michael O'Leary need the children's allowance? No, obviously he doesn't need the children's allowance. He's a multi-millionaire. Is he entitled to it? Yes, because his children are equal under the Constitution. He has 4 kids, actually. Now, I don't even know if they're over 18 or they're under 18. But he has 4 kids, so he's getting 4 children's allowance if they're all under the age of 18. Does he deserve it? I would say yes, because by virtue of the amount of money he's earning, he's paying buckets of tax. So what do you think? Let me go back to Sarah. What do you think the cap should be?
I don't know, but I tell you one thing, there should be a cap.
So should it be 100 grand?
Not really, because it probably if both couples are working and it's 200 grand is coming into the household, yeah.
Okay, do me a favour, stay there for a second, please. Let me go to Dave. How are you, Dave? You there, Dave?
Can you hear me?
Good, yeah. You're on Ireland's Classic Hits Radio. How are you?
Sorry.
I'm shocked by what I'm hearing here. I might be completely naive, thinking. And by the way, I don't have. I'm by no means rich or anything like that. I work in a normal job. I have a normal salary. But I firmly believe, and I'm not a huge fan of mega rich people, but am I not right in saying that rich people pay more money into the country?
Yeah, well, see, I worked for a really rich farmer once upon a time, and I've gotten to know a lot of really rich people, and a lot of really rich people actually pay fuck all tax because they find very ingenious ways of hiding their money. Like if you're a guy who owns a company, what you'll do towards the end of the year is you'll buy a new machine or a new truck, or you put down a load of concrete, so it's a tax write-off for you. So,
oh yeah, completely. Yeah, they are very clever doing that.
So like it may look like you're paying lots of tax, but you're really claiming all that back at the next fiscal year. So I mean, and it's come out time and time again how rich people hide their money. So this idea that all the mega rich people in Ireland pay most of the tax is a small bit of a misnomer. The multinationals probably do in regards to PAYE, VAT, but we also saw what Apple did there a couple of years ago. So, rich people are going to hide their money, and we'd all do the exact same as them, only we don't have accountants. So I wouldn't really hold it against them. If I could do it, I'd do it. If you could do it, you'd do it. Like, nobody wants to be paying taxes. And if you can find a way of hiding your taxes, you're going to do it. It's pure human nature.
Okay. Does someone, let me ask you a straight question, does someone earning over 100 grand a year deserve children's allowance?
Of course they do. Everybody does. Every child in the eyes of the Irish state is completely equal, no matter what your background is, and every one of them is entitled.
Yeah.
That's no issues with that whatsoever.
Okay, there's a lot of people texting now very angry with me. Here's Tracy Dixon, no relation. Tracy says, I presume she's talking about me. She says, he never takes up for the working class people, and he is known for it. That's great that I'm known for that. You completely missed my point, Tracy. I'm sticking up for everybody here. Everybody, Tracy. And without rich people in this country, we would be on our knees. Because again,
Jerry, I'm going to pull you up there. Without the poor people who work for the rich people,
yes, that as well. But I can see both. I can see both sides of the coin. And like you think about it, someone who's on, say, a company CEO who's on 200 grand a year, yeah, they're paying pretty much a half of that into the tax. So they're paying about 100 grand into the coffers. So Tracy, that is the point I'm making.
Yeah, but Jerry, it's a bit disingenuous, though. I mean, because like that CEO who's getting, say, 200 grand a year probably could work for a company that pays like the people who work for a minimum wage on 0-hour contract. Do you know what I mean? So it's the usual thing. It's usual divide and conquer, rich versus poor. To kind of get our eyes off the ball and not see the people who are really screwing us. There's enough wealth in this country. Like the surplus this year is 10 billion euro, and the surplus for next year is going to be 16 billion euro. And like the reason, like nobody is going on that like we all want more money for the back to school allowance. What people are pissed off about is the fact that like since the last recession, the wages in this country really haven't changed. They haven't gone up. But the price of everything year on year on year, a school jumper that cost €40 maybe 6 or 7 years ago is now costing you €80.
Yeah, but Dave, as well, and this came up I remember during the communion time with parents in WhatsApp groups and all, you know, Aldi and Lidl were selling communion clothes, and all these parents posting online, I wouldn't have my kid wearing a clothes or a dress from Aldi. Like, parents create a lot of these problems, Dave.
Hold on a second, right? First of all, right, like people like that are in the minority. They are, because, I mean, it's like this whole...
I don't believe it. I don't believe they are. I don't believe
they are. The vast majority of people I know, a lot of us, that we got our kids communion clothes in pennies. We didn't go over the top. Some people do. But like people like that are few and far in between. The vast majority of people, the reason they're pissed off is because year on year on year, like I just mentioned to you there, right? Like there's a €10 billion surplus, right? Most of that surplus is coming from the likes of fuel. Like the price of a pint has gone up. We had 3/4 of the price of a pint is excised by the state. You get me? You know, that's why people are getting annoyed, because people are paying taxes, people are working, people are seeing all their overheads go up year on year on year, which you're not seeing an increase in the wages. Yeah, you know, we're being told that we're one of the richest nations on earth, but for the average Joe Soap, it doesn't feel like that. And then we're being told that it's people on social welfare taking all your money, when in reality we have like 0% unemployment. Like we have 4% unemployment.
Yeah,
like
it's very, very
any
low.
measure, that's zero. You will never get lower than that. You know, and then you look at the money that's squandered by the state. I mean, National Children's Hospital, perfect example.
I know, Dave.
Go down the other country, right? You say, here's a flat piece of land and here's €2 billion build a hospital. Imagine the hospital
it's ridiculous. Anyway, Dave, I'm sorry for cutting across you. I'm just running out of time rapidly. This, and you talk a lot of sense. You really do, as always. Hi, Jeremy. I can't ring in, but I just wanted to say what really pissed me off this year was that the people who get the back to school allowance got an extra £100 per child, while the people who get nothing, i.e. working people, got nothing as usual. Why not give something to the people who are working and struggling? We get absolutely nothing. It's sickening, says that person. Again, a lot of more people annoyed with me over my comments. I have said nothing that is infactual. Absolutely nothing. Everything I've said is factual. That rich people pay more tax. Rich people put more money into the pot. Okay? Jeremy, please don't say that children in this country are treated as equal, because I can assure you a child from Sheriff Street is treated totally different to a child from Black Rock, and unfortunately that won't change in their lifetime. I'm talking about in the Patrick, I'm talking about in the eyes of when it comes to welfare, when it comes to children's allowance. Every child in the country is treated equal. When it comes to education, certainly up to secondary school level, every child is treated equal. We are all given the same education in this country. So, yes. My blood is boiling, says this person, Mark. Let me hear what he says. If the poor creatures got up off their arse and actually worked, they'd actually get the same children's allowance. Stand up to that woman.
Real people, real opinions.
Real Talk Radio. The multi-award winning Niall Boylan Show.